Good evening, and welcome to the League of Women Voters Candidates Forum for New Jersey's third congressional district general election. This forum is sponsored by the Leagues of Monmouth County, Burlington County, Greater Princeton Area, and Lawrence Township. I'm Deborah McMillan, a member of the League of Women Voters of the Greater Princeton Area. Nationally, the League of Women Voters is a 104-year-old nonprofit, nonpartisan political organization. Membership in the League is open to everyone aged 16 or older of any gender who supports our mission to empower voters and defend democracy. We invite you to join the League, where you can participate in registering voters, presenting candidate forums, and educating the public on voting, among other civic activities in which we engage. As a nonpartisan organization, we never support and we never oppose a party or a candidate. A recording of tonight's forum will be available on our websites, lwvmonmouth.org, lwvburlco.org, that's Burlington County, Burlco, lwvprinceton.org, and lwvlt.org, that's LT as in Lawrence Township. In addition, the recording can be found on vote411.org, which is the League's national nonpartisan voter guide. No other recording of the event for any purpose is permitted, as agreed to by the candidates. Our trained and experienced moderator for tonight's forum is Ann Torrey. As required by League rules, the moderator lives outside of the voting area. Here is Ann Torrey to introduce the forum and the candidates.
Thank you, Deborah, and welcome candidates and voters to the 2024 Candidate Forum for New Jersey's 3rd Congressional District. I'm very happy to be here and to serve as your moderator. Tonight, our goal for the forum is to help you, the voters, learn about the candidates running for the U.S. House of Representatives to represent the people living in the 3rd Congressional District, or CD3. This year, 6 candidates are running to represent CD3 for a 2-year term. Tonight's forum is an excellent way to learn about the candidates. For another way, visit vote411.org, the League of Women Voters online voter guide. Some of your candidates are already participating in the guide. We thank them. You can read more about their vision on the site. Candidates who have not yet completed their profile, it is not too late to post on the site. Before I introduce the candidates, a quick review of tonight's format. First of all, we plan to have you to end no later than 8:30 tonight, earlier if possible. That will give all of us time to tune into the Vice Presidential Forum at 9 p.m. We will start with the candidates' opening statements, each limited to 2 minutes, in an order we've agreed upon. The order we've agreed upon is very simply alphabetical by last name, A to Z. So that we'll begin with Mr. Barbera, followed by Mr. Conaway. And
hello,
so
Patriots. I would like to
oh,
thank
no,
you.
no, no, not yet. Hold on.
Oh.
Hold on. I'll call on you. Don't worry. You're jumping the gun. That's good. Our timekeeper, who you can see on screen, will hold up a yellow card to signify 30 seconds left and a red card when time is up. Candidates, keep your eye on the timekeeper. When you see the red card, finish your thought and your sentence as quickly as you can to keep it fair. For the audience, Mr. Wynn, one of our candidates, is not able to see the timekeeper on his screen, so I will be reminding him when his time is up if that is necessary, but I want the audience to know that he's not flouting the rules there. He can't see the timekeeper. Following opening statements, we'll turn to the question period. I will pose each question and each candidate will have a chance to respond, and their responses will be limited to no more than 90 seconds. That is 1.5 minutes. Given our time frame, we expect to cover 8 to 12 questions tonight. That means we will not get to every question you submitted, but we are seeking to cover as many critical topics as possible. We also, because we have 6 candidates, We will not be doing formal rebuttals. I have advised the candidates that if they feel they need to rebut something another candidate has said, they can use the beginning of their next response time to do that. Finally, after questions, we wrap up with the candidates' closing statements. These are limited to 60 seconds each. After the candidates' closing statements, please stay with us. I have some very brief information on voting in this year's election, about 2 minutes worth. Stay with us. That will wrap up the evening. Now, let's introduce the candidates and get started. In alphabetical order, the candidates with their party or their slogan are Justin R. Barbera, Join the Revolution; Herb Conaway, Democratic Party; Rajesh Mohan, Republican Party; Chris Russomanno, Libertarian Party; Stephen Welser, Green Party; and Douglas Anthony Wynn, Why Not Win? So right now we'll start with the candidates' opening statements, and the first statement is from Justin Barbera. Mr. Barbera.
Hello, Patriots. It's a pleasure to be in front of you today. I want to thank you for watching. It's very important to our freedom. There's so many issues with America. It's going to be very difficult to cover every one of those in the next 2 minutes, but I know chronic diseases, our border, our overpriced medical care and prescription care are just a few of the things that are very troublesome in an economy where having a couple dollars at the end of your pay period is nearly impossible. With the fuel prices, I look to change all these things and to create a blueprint for other independent patriots to rally behind me in the next coming elections and to overtake our government and have independent patriots making our voices heard across the nation. Join me. Give me some stability by voting for me, get me in there, and I will make sure to share this platform so we could take back our country.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barbera. Next, we'll hear an opening statement from Mr. Conaway. Conaway?
Good evening, everybody, and thanks so much for taking the time to join in our American democracy. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for providing this forum so that we have a chance to air our views on the issues of the day. Since not everybody knows me on this call, I'll just provide a little background. I was born and lived in Bordentown, New Jersey, and lived in this region my entire life. My father is a retired high school teacher and instilled in me certainly a love of history. My mother was a nurse in the hospital where I volunteered and eventually served as an attending physician. Went to public schools, off to Princeton, and then off to Jefferson Medical College in Philadelphia, where I earned my MD degree. And after that, I went into the military. I raised my hand in defense of the Constitution and our liberties and joined the military as a medical officer in the United States Air Force right at McGuire, at Joint Base McGuire. I then went on to residency and practice in a urban community hospital, teaching the next generation of residents. I was raised on the value of hard work, bearing your burdens lightly, using the talents you have for good. Now, I've walked across this district and heard from you, the voters, about what's important. Our democracy and our freedoms are uppermost. And unfortunately and sadly, because of the MAGA movement, we have women who are not equal to men today. And we need to do something about it. It should be abhorrent to every American that women now are second-class citizens with regard to their health. Also, I've heard about how people are struggling and that that there is an affordability crisis in healthcare and across the board. I want you to know that I'm a proven leader. I've been in the legislature for 26 years. I passed over 300 bills on all the issues that are important to New Jerseyans. I have had a voice and fought for the middle class of our state. And if you favor me with a vote, I'll do the same thing if elected to Congress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Conaway. Next, we hear from Rajesh Mohan. Mr. Mohan?
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this debate and the folks listening out there. I'm Dr. Rajesh Mohan, an interventional cardiologist with an MBA, serving people in New Jersey for over 20 years. Guided by my parents to always work hard, never take anything for granted, and leave nothing to chance, as well as my high school motto, service before self, I've worked hard to improve lives of patients and communities. My parents, especially my mother, wanted me to be a doctor, and not just a doctor, but a cardiologist. And not just a cardiologist, but the best cardiologist that I could possibly be. I will follow the same teachings of my mother and be the best congressman that I can possibly be. And the way that will happen is by serving the people, doing good for the people, because that is what elected public officials are supposed to do. Serve the people, not serve themselves. I'm a common man. I'm one of you, in many ways, just like you, in this great melting pot of legal immigrants we call the United States of America. I humbly seek your vote to serve you as your next congressman. As a political outsider, I bring clear thinking, issue-based problem-solving work ethic with real-world success. My commitment to you is that, unlike career politicians, I have no personal agendas and will serve with empathy and strength. I will fight to make healthcare work for patients, not insurance companies, cut taxes, help small business, secure our borders, stop illegal immigration, protect Medicare and Social Security, keep government out of our daily lives, and keep medical care between patients and doctors, men and women. I have always put patients first. Now, please give me the opportunity to put you, the people, first. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohan. Next, we will hear from Chris Russomanno. Mr. Russomanno?
Hi, everybody. My name's Chris Russomanno. I'm a libertarian, and libertarians, we're known as the party of principle. The principle we follow is the non-aggression principle, which stipulates that you can do whatever you want as long as you do not use first strike force or aggression against other people. We believe you shouldn't lie, cheat, or steal. We believe you should keep your promises, and we apply these same standards to the government as well. With all the issues that we face today, I just don't think that voting the same way as we have in the past is going to get us out of this. I think we're going to get more of the same. So if you want something different, something better, vote for me, vote libertarian, all your rights, all the times, individual freedom, individual responsibility. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Russomanno. Next, Stephen Welzer. Mr. Welzer?
Hi, and thanks to the League for hosting tonight. The climate crisis is a specific manifestation of a more general ecological crisis facing humanity and impacting all living creatures. Scientists are warning about the rapid progression of a sixth mass extinction event. In his 2002 book, The Future of Life, Edward O. Wilson of Harvard University calculated that if the current rate of human disruption of the biosphere continues, 1/2 of Earth's higher life forms will be extinct by 2100. This is immoral in its essence, but it will also greatly affect the quality of human life. After the publication of Silent Spring in 1962, an environmental movement emerged having the goal of addressing the catastrophic ecological disruption caused by our irresponsible practices and our exploitative economic system. Green politics is the electoral expression of that movement. Green parties have been established in over 90 countries worldwide. Their candidates are able to get elected to parliaments in most of those countries, and they've participated in governing coalitions in almost 20 countries. But in the United States, progress toward new thinking and badly needed new directions is impeded by an electoral system that limits voters to the dreary prospect of only two significant parties, both of which are stuck in retrograde policies and ideologies. If our society stands at a point of crisis, well, the Republicans and Democrats have each been in power about half the time since 1860. It's now time to allow for more voices in the system and more choices on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Douglas Anthony Wynn. Mr. Wynn?
Yes, yes, thank you for having me tonight. I truly appreciate you. And thank God for having me here first. And thank you ladies for having me tonight. My name is Doug. I was born and raised in Camden, New Jersey, single parent. I've been a law enforcement officer for 31 years and counting. I believe it's time to change the way we know politics here in New Jersey. It's time for the corruption to stop. I'm here to say we have to have transparency back. Transparency is gone. I believe in order to have corruption to stop, we have transparency, keeps everybody honest. And that's what's missing in our politics. Between both parties, in the last 40 years, what have they done? In my lifetime, nothing. So I'm saying let's get out and change. It's time for change. It's time to change. It's time for change that we know it in District 3. It's been the same old, same old. We have to get transparency back. The governor's taking that from us. We gotta get it back. Get out and vote. I'm good.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all. We'll now turn to questions. And just to remind everyone, including the candidates, I'll pose the question. Candidates, you can volunteer by raising your actual hand if you'd like to answer. Otherwise, I will call on you. If you would like to have me repeat a question, candidates, just ask. Again, candidates, if I skip you or forget you in some way, please raise your hand, call out and let me know, and we'll correct that. All right, so first question. We're going to start with something very fundamental to democracy. This is the question. What measures do you support to encourage voting and to restore trust in our elections? Who would like to begin? Mr. Barbera, how about you?
Yes, that's a great question. I appreciate you asking that, Ann. Some of the things that we need to change in our voting to keep it more transparent, as Mr. Wynn stated, is we need to protect our ballots more than we protect our money. They're more valuable than our money is at the moment. It's our freedom. And if we don't protect that, then we're going to have a corrupt government. And, you know, that needs to change. We need to keep security on the ballots at all times, in transit as well. We need to eliminate the ability to freely vote from home, because that's a corruptible measure. Of course, those that have trouble because of disability, we can make secessions for that. And we need to mobilize with our government people to get to the ballots and support that measure with free transportation from the federal and state sectors. Those are some of the things we need to do to keep this election safe from corruption. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your thoughts. Other thoughts on this topic? How about Mr. Mohan? Would you like to answer?
Sure. I would actually want and help. I'm not a backbencher, never been a backbencher. When I get into Congress, you will see a lot of work done by me where I will be bringing in policies with teeth, with actually metrics, because that is what I practice every single day, evidence-based medicine. I would want to and help write a stronger, more comprehensive Voting Rights Act to prevent voter discrimination, voter fraud, incentivize and improve ease of voter registration, and increase voter participation, including availability of a day off to individuals who provide proof of voting on a given day, including early voting and election day voting. Any act that is, so many acts that generally are passed in Congress and the State House, you've heard the numbers in the thousands, that is vague and does not solve any problem. Instead, such acts with ill-defined language or lawyer speak, I'm sure Mr. Conaway knows about that, being a lawyer himself, with no tangible outcomes, are just an exercise of pushing paper. Consequential acts must be well-defined, contain specific requirements and metrics with measurable short, medium, and long-term results. People in Congress need to do a job that must be such that the public regains their trust in our government and institutions. Right now, almost 80% of Americans do not trust the government. Until that trust level is significantly improved, turmoil in our society that we've been seeing will continue or even get worse. So we have to get that trust of the people.
Thank you, Mr. Mohan.
By doing
Thank you.
stuff with metrics.
Time is up. All right, Mr. Nguyen, would you like to speak?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I believe that in order to vote, you should have an ID to vote. I go to vote, and they're not asking for ID. They ask you where you live at, but don't ask you for ID. So I believe that's very important. I believe that senior homes, I believe that voting polls should be at senior homes. I don't want an excuse why they can't come out and vote. If they're in there, voting booths are at the senior homes, I know it can be done. That would give them a chance to get out and vote. I believe that voting, seniors votes are very important. So we can't start making excuses why they can't get to the voting booths. If it's in their senior homes, to where they go to where they live at, I believe they come downstairs and will vote.
Thank you. Mr. Conaway, could we hear from you now?
Yeah, so would you please repeat the question? I'm not
I'd be
sure
happy to.
with the answers that I've heard exactly what the question is.
What measures do you support to encourage voting and restore trust in our elections?
Well, first of all, let me just say we have the safest, most secure election system in the world. Our election system is the envy of the world. We go to other countries to help them conduct their elections. Now, I have been, as I've said, a long-term legislator. There's not a single measure to expand access to the vote that I haven't either sponsored or otherwise supported and certainly voted for, because I believe very much that democracy, of course, means that people have a voice, and the way you have a voice is through a vote. It is a vote, after all, is an act of love, in my opinion, for your democracy, for civic life. And as people vote and engage in civic life, they will be more bound to it and more interested in the output of government. Certainly, along with that, government needs to act and function in accordance with the directions that the people give us with respect to policies. And those who make policy need to be impeccable with respect to their own integrity and truth-telling to the public. And we have a couple of physicians here. Yes, I happen to be a lawyer as well. But trust in one's word, following through on one's word is the key. The voters in my district have sent me to office 14 times now because they know that I've been straight with them from the get-go. I'll continue to do that if I'm privileged with representing the 3rd District in the Congress.
Thank you. How about Mr. Welzer? Would you like to respond to this question?
Sure. And there's no question, trust in our political system is at historic lows. Unsurprisingly, the number of Americans who feel that neither establishment party represents them is at record highs. Today's U.S. government is a plutocracy where policies are determined not by the will of the people, but by the demands of corporate elites. Full and meaningful participation in democracy should be a human right. We need to revive our democracy with a full spectrum of reforms to empower the people, including real choices on the ballot. Because without freedom of choice in elections, there is no democracy. The Green Party program says, replace the exclusionary 2 corporate party system with an inclusive multi-party democracy through ranked choice voting and proportional representation. Institute full public financing of elections. Get the corrupting influence of private money out of politics, put the people back in. Abolish the Electoral College and elect the president via national popular vote using ranked choice voting. Yes, automatic voter registration nationwide. Lots of countries have that. Expand polling locations and make free vote by mail an option for all elections. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And on this question, Mr. Russomanno.
Sure. I like what Mr. Nguyen said. I agree with that. I think we do need to have people show ID before they vote. You don't know who, if anybody could say they are who they are, but there's no proof of it. You just don't know. I think ID would be a good thing. I don't like mail-in ballots either. It leads to ballot harvesting. I think that should be done away with. I don't have a problem with absentee ballots, as you've established your place of residence, who you are. That sort of thing is fine. I also like what Mr. Welzer was saying. Yeah, they make it very hard, and by they, plutocracy, I think, is the word he used. They make it very hard for third parties of any stripe to gain traction in this country. You've had this duopoly controlling things, at least in my lifetime, And it's done no good. Again, you get more of the same. Things keep getting worse. They keep third parties out. They keep new ideas out, fresh ideas, better ideas, so that they can control things. And look where it's gotten us. It's gotten us no place good. So I like what Mr. Welzer said. I think we do need a lot of reform in that area. I think we should have more than two parties, 3, 4, 5. Certainly, there's all types of ideas out there. And I don't think the two parties that have been running things are really doing a great job of it. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you all. Next question. What steps, if any, would you support to curb gun violence in our country? Can we start with Mr. Conaway?
Yes, thank you for that question. Again, if you look at my record, past this prologue, there's not a single piece of gun legislation that's been passed in New Jersey in the last 25 years that I haven't either sponsored, co-sponsored, pushed through the legislature, and certainly voted for when it came time to vote. We can strengthen our system, certainly. I am for an assault weapons ban, as a matter of fact. I think it's preposterous that people can go in and buy a weapon of mass destruction and without any training, without any idea. Well, first of all, I don't think you should have them. And the fact that people can go in and purchase them now without so much as a lesson on how one might use it is even worse. We need to deal with safety in the home. Most teenagers in particular who commit suicide or have accidental death are due to guns in the house. And that's because they're left out in the open for guns for children to be able to pick up and use to unfortunately very harmful ends. So we should have background checks. Certainly, I support that. I've been endorsed by by many of the gun groups, if not all of them, who are interested in this election and supporting candidates for Congress, because I have a record of accomplishment on gun control in New Jersey, and that you can count on. That I'll fight for gun control, for common sense gun control, if elected to Congress.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Barbera, did I see your hand before? Would you like to respond?
Yeah, I'd love to answer this question. I'm the son of a national bench rest champion, 1992. The R, my middle name is actually my dad's last name. He didn't raise me, but I'm proud to be the son of a national champion bench rest shooter and a sniper Marine. I believe that guns equal the equation from violence and victims. And I believe that all Americans deserve the right to have a sidearm. We need better training. That is fundamentals. We need our education to be up to par with the amount of guns that we have. So we need ongoing gun training for even gun holders already. But I would like to see senior year high school students begin gun training because they'll be soon of the age to carry a sidearm. We had our freedoms established by having arms, and we need to continue that. Our founding fathers knew that tyranny would begin from the government if we're not well armed, and we don't want to repeat Adolf Hitler and what he did, taking the weapons from his people and then enslaving half the world.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker, Mr. Nguyen. Thanks so much.
Yes, ma'am. I believe that there should be background checks when you want to buy a firearm. But I believe it's also, but you can't have your family afraid of a gun. I've been a law enforcement officer for 31 years. And from day one, my kids knew about firearm. Can't be afraid of it. But at the same time, I believe that most of these crimes are happening for people that are in the streets buying these guns illegally. So most of the crimes that come from people buying the guns was coming from off the streets. So how do we stop that? How do we stop the guys in the hood from getting these guns illegally? That's what we need. That's what we need to first fix. How can we do that? Let's work together, try to get these guns out of the hood and the bad places where they use them illegally. Teach your kids about guns. Don't be afraid to teach them. But at the same time, we need background checks. I don't know why background checks for mental illness is needed. So we can't be afraid to teach our kids or our family members about guns.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Mohan, thank you.
Thank you. I have a gun license. I grew up with guns. My grandfather and my father taught me how to use guns responsibly. It's the Second Amendment is here to stay, and the courts and the people will make sure that it is protected through their elected representatives. It's not going anywhere. I think what has happened so far is that career politicians, they use it as an election issue. That is what it is. They haven't solved any problems. Mass shootings are still going up in spite of all the laws that Assemblyman Conaway has passed so far in his past 26 years. That problem hasn't gone away. We have to stop being bottled up into corners and have a pragmatic solution. Nobody's going to try to take away the Second Amendment. And when they start talking about taking your guns away, it's just election rhetoric, just to get votes. That is all it is, to pander to the anti-gun lobby. So criminals, terrorists, people with mental health disorders who could put themselves or others in danger must not be allowed firearms. It's as simple as that. It does not make sense that people should own rocket launchers or machine guns or grenades. Therefore, background checks done efficiently and in a time-bound manner, cross-checked with national and statewide database, should be a minimum before any gun purchase. So unnecessary extreme positions as well as inaction to prevent mass murders are counterproductive. Common sense, comprehensive measures are what is required instead of status quo due to extreme polarizing stances by career politicians. We need to fix that with common sense measures. We should make it easier for people to own guns and have a level playing field so that we don't have illegal guns.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mohan. Time's up. We still have to hear from Mr. Russomanno. Would you like to speak next?
Sure, I would. So, libertarians, all your rights. First off, Mr. Barbera, Semper Fi, former Marine myself. Mr. Wynn, I'm a retired police officer as well, so I liked a lot of what you had to say. Libertarians, all your rights all the time. My humanity gives me the right to defend myself should I need to. The Second Amendment acknowledges that right. So until they come up with an amendment doing away with the Second Amendment, I'm going to keep my guns. It's my right. It's all of our rights. First off, right off the bat. The other thing is, and a lot of the areas that have the strictest gun control laws, like Chicago, New York, places like that, you have more shooting. DC, Washington, DC, you have more shootings there than you do with places that more people own guns. The more people that actually own guns know how to use them safely. People are a lot nicer to each other, and generally crime is lower because you never know who's going to have a gun. That stops criminals usually, or cuts down on the number of crimes that criminals will do because they're never sure who is going to be armed. My understanding also is that in the urban areas, young women of color, gun ownership has gone up in that category. You have a person that is potentially smaller and weaker than an assailant, and it does them a disservice not to allow them to have a weapon to defend themselves. So all your rights all the time.
Hey, thank you. And Mr. Welser.
The Green Party says end the epidemic of gun violence with common sense gun safety laws, ban the sale of assault rifles, establish a buyback program like the kind that was very successful in Australia, look that up, establish mandatory waiting periods and background checks for firearm purchases, create standardized digital records of gun registrations and sales, close those gun show loopholes that have been such a problem, require firearm owners to own a high-quality gun safe to store their firearms, and hold adult firearm owners criminally liable for minor children accessing their firearms and using them in the commission of any crime or accidental injury or death. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We'll turn to another question now, another topic. What policies, if any, would you pursue in Congress to help mitigate the threat of climate change in the country? To begin on that one, who would like to start? Mr. Wynn, thanks.
I started. But I believe with the climate change, it's been going on for years, and it's going to be going on after we dead and gone. But I believe that we need to stop cutting all these trees down. Right? You're cutting the trees down for what people can make money, so you can put houses on there, apartment buildings, and everything else. Stop cutting these trees down, so we can stop the climate change. Stop the electric vehicles. Right? They said he wants to have electric vehicles. Make it cheaper for us all to have electric vehicles, not just the rich. I'm middle class and I can't afford an electric vehicle. So if you're going to do it, make it by to where you have gas and electric, because gas ain't going nowhere. We got to make it easier. See, we got to make it easier for everyone, not just for the rich. Middle class, we can't do nothing. Poor, we're not getting nothing as well. So make this easier for us. Stop cutting these trees down. Make it easier for us to get electric vehicles if you want us to have this by a certain time. We got to make it easier. Can't make it harder for us if you really want climate change to stop. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. How about Mr. Welser?
We're facing a worsening global climate crisis that threatens the future of human life on Earth. 2023 was the hottest year on record. The 10 hottest years on record have all occurred in the past decade. This accelerating global heating is wreaking havoc on ecosystems, leading to bigger and deadlier fires, floods, megastorms, droughts. Look at what just happened with Hurricane Helene. Environmental and climate injustice are disproportionately harming Black, brown, low-income, and indigenous communities across the country and across the world. Yet despite this existential emergency, the last few years have seen massive expansions in fossil fuel planning, infrastructure, and production, with 2023 breaking the record for U.S. oil production. The Wall Street parties, the establishment parties, funded by corporate polluters, are driving us over the climate cliff. We all have a human right to a livable planet with a stable climate, healthy food, clean air and water, and living soil. We need a real Green New Deal to transition rapidly from an economic system that's destroying our only home to a sustainable society built around human needs and protecting life on Earth. We need to act now so that our children and future generations can not only survive, but thrive. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Barbera?
Thank you. So this is a complicated question, but I'm going to try and break it down pretty simply for you. We need to expose the secret technologies of the Egyptians, the original Tesla, free energy. We need to use our prisoners, train them with the unions, and have them build our infrastructure like they're building Saudi Arabia, but have it for free energy. We can't get away from fuel right away, so we need to open the Alaskan pipeline. We need to get our fuel costs way down. We shouldn't be importing fuel. We need to produce our own fuel so we could be independent from the globe. That's a big security issue, not having our own independence of our own fuel. So these are a couple things. If we attack it on both fronts, we'll have a successful nation that has a trucking industry that can recover. We need to get rid of the brokers in the trucking industry because they're choking off the funds for the actual carriers, and the carriers aren't making a dollar. I've had a CDL license for 20 years. I could speak to that very accurately. I cede the rest of my time.
Thank you. Mr. Russomanno?
Sure. As I understand it, pollution is one of the large problems that causes issues with the climate and the environment. So what I would do is I would shrink the size of the biggest polluter on Earth, and that's the federal government of the United States via the United States military. They're the ones that actually put out the most pollution in the whole world. So what I would do is I would shrink their size and scope. I would cut down, bring all our troops home, get rid of all our foreign entanglements, bring everybody home, shrink the military down. This way, the greatest polluter in the world would be significantly less if we did that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mohan?
Sure. climate change is a real and is an existential crisis. Hard to believe, when it's coming from a Republican candidate, because a lot of Democrats, they try to castigate us as anti-science people. They cannot do that to me. However, it is not a switch that can be turned off or on and expect tangible results without disrupting the lives of people and the economy. So it should be addressed by effective policies that are based on science, availability of resources, development of infrastructure and supply chain, without making us dependent on other countries for our energy needs and economy. Right now, we're talking about electric vehicles. And, 70% of this is coming from China. So tomorrow we get into a skirmish with China. All our electric infrastructure, our energy infrastructure is going to come to a halt. So mitigation of the climate crisis can be done in a smart, science-based transition of our energy needs with minimal negative impact on our economy and livelihoods. In fact, if done right, it would make us leaders in innovation and energy, bringing more jobs and a better economy. But it needs to be in a smart way rather than in a ham-headed way where all these policies are being passed by career politicians without having any knowledge of what the heck they're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Mohan. And Mr. Conaway.
Well, I've been leader on the climate change question here in New Jersey. New Jersey is one of 6 states that are warming the fastest. And of course, we're a coastal state. We've got waters on both sides of our state. And we're seeing a dramatic sea level rise as the temperature on the earth warms, and we are seeing a melting of the polar ice caps. We're seeing loss of species that have solved problems and that we might use to help develop medicines to deal with the scourges of mankind. It is a threat. Innovation and technology certainly are the keys, and we need to make sure those innovations and technologies are driven into the marketplace as quickly as we can. And by the way, when we develop our infrastructure to power our needs, our homes, our vehicles by alternative fuels or wind, those are jobs. We're producing good paying jobs in our country. We should be innovating and exporting our innovations across the world because it's a global problem. And so what have I done? I have led on electric vehicles, electric buses around schools. I certainly support the wind farm that we're developing off the coast. I brought to being a study to look at alternative fuel development and seeing that married up by what the Biden administration has done to develop these hydrogen hubs and these other technology investments so that people can transition, and it should be a transition over time to alternative fuels. Less CO2 in the air means we slow warming and save the planet.
Okay, thank you all very much. Next question. How would you seek to stabilize Social Security for future generations? Who would like to lead off on that? Mr. Conaway, was that you?
Yes.
Okay,
I'll start.
go for it.
One of the things that this has been an issue in many campaigns, and unfortunately, our friends on the other side of the aisle are being led by these MAGA extremists who believe that Social Security and Medicare should be swept away and that people don't need them. Well, I understand, because I'm out there talking to people, that Social Security and Medicare are critical to a retirement that is dignified by people who can no longer work, who have lived their working life, they've raised their children, they did everything they need to do, they've saved as much as they can. Their home is certainly one of the most valuable things that they have, and they want to stay in it, and they need the support of a social insurance system that allows them to live in dignity. So when it comes to voting to stabilize Medicare and Medicaid, yes, raise the age as we need to address happily that we have been, people have been living longer, but also understand that it's absolutely needed. And there's a lot of income out there that's not being utilized to support the many people who need it, and understand this is a need that people have. And because many people are not going to, their only investment is their home. They don't have these big incomes where they can put away a huge 401k, and they don't have these other investments that they passive income that they're not able to do. They're average people, average working people, and they need this income support to be able to live in a dignified way. I will protect Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. Pardon me.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Mohan, thank you.
Sure. I've been brought up in a way where I believe that just as our parents hold our hand while we growing up, and through thick and thin, and they help us. So similarly, when we grow up, we need to have a helping hand and make sure we take care of them in their golden years. That is my upbringing. I've taken care of my parents. I take care of senior patients on a day-to-day basis. So when Mr. Conaway just now mentioned that the other side of the aisle, I will be a bigger protector and probably the last man standing to protect Medicare and Social Security, even if Mr. Conaway falters. He's been in 26 years. He just told you he'll take care of climate change. He will take care of voting rights. He will take care of gun rights. Nothing has happened in 26 years. What have you done in 26 years? If I was in 26 years, you would have seen tangible results. Not just throwing a bone to the voters here and there, throwing crumbs. That is not how you solve problems. You solve problems by making policies and doing things in a real-time manner, not in 26 years and then also have nothing to show. The problem with Social Security, I can go on. What Mr. Conaway just mentioned, it was all mumbo jumbo. It does not even make sense. When Medicare was started, there were 5 workers for every senior who retired. Right now, it's about 2.5 to every senior who retires. So a senior who's actually paid in.
Thank you, Mr. Mohan.
I will talk about this more, but I have a plan.
We know that you
and we will
can,
fix
but
it.
you are out of time right now.
Better than the Democrats and better than Mr. Conaway.
Next person on the question of Social Security, who would like to go next? Mr. Barbera, thank you.
This is a great question. Currently, Social Security is very low for the elderly. It needs to triple, right? And how's it going to triple? Because every time we run low on it, because it's like a slush fund for our nation, every time they need money, they rob it from our Social Security and our elderly because they're easy to rob. We need to implement the 4 heres: build here, buy here, drill here, grow here. We stabilize our money because it's only at 3% GDP when it needs to be like 16. So we actually have money, and we stop importing every other country to do our work for us. We educate our people so they know how to do the trades. Right now, they're lazy, overweight, suffering from chronic diseases. They can't fight in the military. We're a weak and broken nation. And the way the two parties, the monoparty system of demonic deep state is, they're only going to cripple us and make our nation fall further into disrepair, and then implement more immigrants into our nation to take the good jobs because we can't actually fill those jobs because we're 75% obese. We need to educate. The number one thing is to educate all our people. We do that, and we're going to be a stronger nation for it. Change the way you vote and stop complaining about it, and then we'll stop being laughed at by the rest of the globe. Because they're laughing. We complain, and then we keep voting the same clowns back into office. Make a difference. It's up to you, America. It's up to you.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker here, Mr. Nguyen. Thanks.
Yes, no, I agree that we should be allowed to work longer. When people 65 to 70, you be able to work. But at the same time, we have to make it. I know there's a lot of people in law enforcement that didn't get Social Security taken out of their checks. Now they only got the pension, and now they're hurting. It should be mandatory that you get Social Security taken out your check, not an option. See, this is hurting a lot of law enforcement officers. And now they're asking, wow, where I get the money from? So we can't be ran by the machine, which I hate to use it, but it's the machine. Push these people to work longer. You can work to 70 years old. Like he said, education, keeping ourselves healthy to where we're moving around, not getting stagnant, 60, 65 years old, waiting to run to retire. I believe that if we move it to 70 years old, it'll help the Social Security system more. But at the same time, we gotta make sure that these guys get money taken out their checks, full Social Security, so when they do retire, the money's there. That's what they're looking, it's like, oh, what am I doing now? I'm just got my pension. It's not enough. Inflation's going up, healthcare is going up, everything's going up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Welzer?
I don't advocate increasing the retirement age. You know, it's a sign of progress if we're able to have more years of retirement and fund them. So I certainly don't advocate that. What is key in this discussion is the idea of progressive taxation. The obscene extent of inequality in our society creates social resentment and alienation from the system. So Greens always advocate implementing a steeply progressive income tax structure, and how that applies to Social Security is that the cap on FICA contributions makes that a regressive form of taxation. Rich people don't have to pay it all into the system after a certain level of income. So we advocate removing the cap and also applying that taxation to all income, including capital gains and dividends in addition to income. Thanks.
Thank you. And Mr. Russomanno?
Sure. Social Security, that's a Ponzi scheme created by FDR years ago. You're stealing from the unborn to pay people who have been putting into the system. So what I would do, we collectively made promises to a lot of people. A lot of people have been putting into that system and are counting on it. So what I would do, whoever those people are, I would grandfather them in. They've probably based their life around getting that money. And then what I would do is everybody before that, young people now who are putting it into the system, they don't even know whether they'll see anything when it comes time for them to retire. So to spare them all that, I would simply, anybody else that has not been putting into the system, I wouldn't have them put into it. They would keep their money. They would be able to invest it and probably do a much better job than the government has done with it. Invest it in whatever they would like so that they could plan for their entire retirement themselves. And everybody who has been putting into it, we keep our promise and give them what they've put in for all this time.
Hey, thank you very much. Next question. What are your views on access to abortion, IVF, contraception, and other reproductive health care? Hi, Mr. Barbera, start us off.
Well, it's come to my attention that I will be your only pro-life candidate for this NJCD3. I believe in faith in my founding fathers like they did in God, and we need to protect our unborn, our voiceless. I'm the voice for the voiceless. When God, let me go a little scientific on you. When the sperm meets the egg, there's a halo of light that's unexplainable. We get our soul at that point. We get our heartbeat at that point. We're a genome at that point. Once that happens, we need to protect those young patriots from murderous actions by doctors and by the women. And also there are circumstances where we need to support the families of violence. And we support both sides of that, the child and the family, the victim, federally. And we give them all the counseling and support financially if need be, so they can have a safe and a healed life. We have a declining population, just like China, and we can't sustain our infrastructure if we stop our reproduction. And that's why the immigrants are allowed to come in, because we need to make up for it somehow. Our government won't tell us that, but that's what's happening. We need to ban it nationally and stand by our faith. Thank you.
Next speaker on this question, Mr. Conaway.
Yes, and I'll just, my Republican opponent may not like that I have a record on these issues, but I do, and it's verifiable, and people can look it up and understand that I've led on the issues, on the questions that you've raised. Now, getting to the question of a woman's right, his party, these MAGA extremists, put a plan into action, and they have ended Roe, and they have put the lives of women all over this country in jeopardy. We've seen 2 deaths already of young women in Georgia whose doctors were afraid to treat them because they thought they might go to jail for doing their job as a physician and dealing with pregnancy care. We have families all over the country who and my family used IVF at one point. A lot of families, a lot of people know people who have used IVF, and many of those families now are very concerned whether or not they're going to be able to carry on with children because of what these MAGA extremists have done that my Republican opponent supports. And so I will work to codify Roe into law. I will, as I've done here in New Jersey, make sure that women have access to reproductive health care, that physicians are not harnessed and being able to prevent care to women by a politician. And what I know as a practicing physician of 30 years is that if the politician's in the exam room, there are one too many people in there. Women deserve to work with their healthcare providers to advance their health, keep the politicians out, keep the MAGA extremists out of healthcare.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Mohan.
Yeah, so again, his 26 years of experience showing nothing except pushing paper, with no results. That's what it is, unfortunately. And everybody can see those multiple bills, but nothing to show as far as ground reality is concerned. So let me just plainly give you an answer without attempting to insult the intelligence of my opponent over here, as well as the people who he's trying to fool. I'm a practicing cardiologist. I've treated pregnant women, high-risk pregnant women, whom I get consulted on. I practice evidence-based medicine every day, including guidelines from the American College of OBGYN. I'm best qualified to lead and restore the patient-doctor relationship. The hypocrisy of Mr. Conaway, who just introduced a bill, A1884, to put lawyers and middlemen in between the patient and doctor, now wants talking about politicians being away from the exam room. That is just pure hypocrisy. No one, including the Democrats, for all their noise, because they use it as just a vote-getting measure. They do not, if something would have been done, they could have done it by now. They did not. I will protect women's health and rights, which I believe are second to none, and ensure medical care is based on medical science, respecting each patient's beliefs and faith, which may vary even in the same religion. So that is where I come from. I practice that every single day. You cannot dare to put me in any corner, whether anti or pro-abortion. For me, it is about a patient-doctor relationship between a doctor and a man and a doctor and a woman based on whatever the woman decides based on her faith.
Thank you.
Late-term abortion.
Thank you, Mr. Mohan. Thank you. You're out of time. Let's hear from Mr. Nguyen. Thank you.
Yes, I don't believe that I can tell a woman what she should do with her body. Maybe she's been raped by an uncle. Maybe she was raped by someone on the street. So I'm not here to tell her you can't have an abortion. To me, that's up to her. It's up to her, whoever she, whatever faith she believes in, she got to deal with it. It's not up to me to tell someone what to do with their body. She got to deal with that. But if she needs that abortion for whatever reason, the baby's sick, we can't do long term, or the baby's gonna have issues. It's up to her and the father, right? But we can't sit here, and I believe that you can't tell someone what they should do with their body. It's up to that woman.
Okay, thank you very much. How about Mr. Russomanno?
Sure. First of all, I'm a libertarian. I don't use words or phrases that Democrats and Republicans have come up with, like pro-life or pro-choice, to describe what I think and feel. So what I would say is that it seems like when you include government in anything and politicize something, you have all these factions fighting with one another. A lot of vitriol comes into play. So what I would do is I would remove government from the equation entirely. So what I would do is simply leave it up to people to determine what they would do in that situation. As an example, you don't get to steal money from me through taxation and put it towards something that I find morally repugnant. You don't get to give it to Planned Parenthood that funds abortions. I don't like that. I don't like you taking money from me and giving it to pregnancy centers either. That's immoral as well. I should be able to take my money and I should be able to go live out my faith and donate it wherever I feel it should go. So, for those people who are pro-life or Christians, you get to go out there and do what Jesus did. You get to minister to young women. You get to help them out, which is exactly what Jesus did. He didn't call in the Romans to help people out. He didn't call in the government to do it. He went out and he loved people and he did it. You could do that too. On the other side, again, you don't get to take my money from me and do whatever you want with it, especially something that I find horrible. Live your faith, live your life, use your time and money as you see fit.
Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Welser.
Roe v. Wade was overturned, it's more than 2 years ago now. The real scandal is that the Biden-Harris administration haven't moved towards codifying Roe v. Wade in law. It's got to be done, and it should have been done already. They also should repeal the Hyde Amendment, which prohibits federal funding for abortions. That should be repealed. Our goal should be that every baby is a wanted child. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question, new topic. What is your position on immigration and border security? And how will you work to improve the current system? Let's start with Mr. Russomanno.
Sure. So in a perfect world, libertarians, we believe in freedom. I would just love for people to be able to travel wherever they wanted to, as long as they're not hurting anybody else. We don't live in a perfect world. So in a less perfect world, what I would do is I would privatize everything. Therefore, if a person owned a piece of property and they wanted to have someone come and visit them, work for them, they could. It's their property. Nobody should be able to tell them what to do with their property. That's really not what we have now. What we have now is our federal government, again, stealing money from us through taxation, saying they're going to provide a blanket of protection for us, which they are not doing. So I'd like my money back. This problem, I don't know why it really hasn't been solved. And I think the part of the way to do it would just be that if you have someone, I have a house, if I want to invite somebody here from another country to come live or stay or work, and I vouch for them, I think that should be the way to go about it. It's a good start. I don't know why stuff like that hasn't been done by the Democrats and the Republicans at all. The other thing is, if you did have, like I said before, everything was privatized, you would be choosing who to associate with, who your neighbors are. Right now, the government's taking that away from you. Right now, the government is choosing who will be your neighbors, who will live with you and around you. And that's really taking away your ability or right to decide where you want to live or who you'd like to be around you, so on and so forth. So I would just like to empower people to be able to have that choice.
Okay, thank you. Next on this topic, Mr. Mohan?
Sure. I believe the American people elect us to public office to serve them, not illegal immigrants, not foreigners. And looks like we have a lot of crocodile tears for probably nefarious purposes from the Democrats. They're not Mother Teresa. They cannot pretend to be Mother Teresa, but they try to. We have to have a closed southern border so that we do not use it as a magnet for illegal immigrants. We have to stop illegal immigration. The extreme left-wing folks like Mr. Conaway, like his other members in the party, they seem to have drunk the Kool-Aid. They just want a free flow of illegal immigrants into the border. New Jersey is now a sanctuary state. And so we are draining our educational resources, our healthcare resources, as well as it's a national security threat. So we have to have a closed southern border and then improve the process of legal immigration. I am all for legal immigration, But right now, legal immigration is suffering because all the resources are going into the southern border and stopping illegal immigration. And that is a total mess. We have to stop illegal immigration, improve the process of legal immigration, and have asylum seekers a proper, efficient process. That is the way to do it.
Thank
But-
you. Thank you, Mr. Mohan. How about Mr. Welser on this topic?
It's a very complex subject. The Greens talk so much about sustainability because we sense that many of our civilizational trajectories, like for population, pollution, depletion of resources, are unsustainable. And unless we change course and start going in a greener direction, we're heading for real crises. They've begun already. They begin at the periphery. They begin at the global south. After centuries of colonial exploitation and inducement toward overpopulation there, what we're witnessing is a succession of failed states. From the Mideast, Africa, Latin America, what we're seeing is people are understandably fleeing from the wars and the social dysfunction and the epidemics. There's an immigration crisis in the global north because the global south has been pillaged for centuries and is now suffering from poverty, conflict, and ecological devastation. It shouldn't be a surprise to see that the poor quality of life there motivates so many to emigrate. Immigration ought to be a simple issue. Every modern country has a process. The process should be fair, transparent, and followed. Undocumented entrants are problematic for everyone, including the undocumented, but we've got to give them now a path towards citizenship in this country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Barbera?
Yes, I'm happy to answer this question. I've been a business owner for 20 years. I've started my construction company by going door to door, and I've actually parlayed that into my campaign. I've shook over 100,000 constituent hands over the past 12 months. So I've put my platform out on RVN TV at Morning Coffee about this exact topic, the border. I'm probably going to be the most unique solution to this that we've heard yet, and that is to annex Mexico since they can't control their own country. Annexing means we take over their country. We bring our military in, tell their military to stand down. We retire their elected officials. We tell their military they could join our military and vote sooner if they do so. We rebuild that infrastructure and make it a water border instead of a land border. It's much better to defend a water border. And we put Ellis Island type facilities around our perimeter. That'll stabilize our nation and make immigration impossible unless they're going through the proper channels like they did over 100 years ago. Then again, we could also use the chain gang to help that infrastructure and then allow the newly released prisoner to be able to live in the newly established lands of the New Mexico states of the Union.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nguyen, let's hear from you.
Yes, no, I believe that our borders should be stronger. I believe that we should have more security around our borders so that they're not coming here hurting our community, our people. I see where it's hurting a lot of our young people to where that the people coming in illegally, they're getting gifts such as loans and education. But our people here, our people, they can't get it. They can't get the loans. If they get the loans are sky high. Can't get educated because they're giving it to other people. So we got to control our borders, starting at home. We got to take care of home first. We want to be nice and everything else, but we got to take care of home first. Put some more security around that border, stop them from coming in, do it the right way if we want to be here. But the legal immigration has to stop because it's hurting our country.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Conaway.
Well, first off, we are a nation of immigrants. The Americans are a compassionate people, and that as a basis. I would also start by saying that crossings at the border are down, and they have been for some time now. Clearly, the problem at the southern border is not solved. There's a lot of work to do there, but I will tell you that unlike the MAGA Republicans who killed a bill, because the dear leader said, we don't want any solutions to address the problem with the border, and the Republicans walked away. And perhaps my opponent would do differently. I don't know. It sounds like he's going to be in lockstep with them. I'll tell you what I support. I support more border guards at the border to make sure to protect it. The bill that was scuttled by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans called for repairing and some barrier construction as well. It called for more judges so that we can deal with the asylum issue, so that people can come who need asylum. We are, like many nations around the world, take asylum seekers in because they're fleeing a repressive government or war in their home countries. Should we stop doing that? So we had a deal that was, and I'm a pragmatic person. I work across the aisle. I've done so for 26 years and will continue to do so if favored to go to Congress. I will support the deal that the current president negotiated. And if you have a Democratic Congress, you'll get that deal.
Okay, thank you very much. We've dealt with a lot of weighty issues. We're going to turn now to our last two questions, I believe, that are going to be more about how you would function as a member of Congress. So the next question is this. Andy Kim, current House member for the 3rd District, just held his 79th town hall. Will you pledge to continue a similar commitment to constituent communication if elected? Okay,
Yes.
Mr. Nguyen.
I believe that we should give the power back to the people. I believe that on doing that, we have to have town hall meetings continually, not just once every time election time comes. We need a council so we know what's going on in our community. I'm in favor of that. Not only town hall meetings, I believe in meeting with them every week at a diner somewhere so we can sit down and chop it up. We need to know what's going on in our community. Only way by doing it is getting in the community, not only in the nice neighborhoods in Morristown and the Mount Hollies, but in the urban areas as well. Willenboro, in the Willenboro areas and Berlin Township, we need to be in everywhere so we know what's going on in our community. Have to have the town hall meetings. Andy Kim just can't have them during election time. That's the only time we see him. Have to have them all the time.
Just to clarify, he had them monthly. Who would like to speak to this next? Mr. Barbera? Thank you.
Yes, I started my campaign 12 months ago. Like I said, I'm a business owner, so I have my business address on Route 70. So I would hold Saturday morning, I called it a campaign caucus for the public. So since I'm on Route 70, my door's always open Saturday mornings from 8 to 12. And I did that for about 3 months. So I would continue that. I'd continue that as my my office here in New Jersey for the public to come and voice their concerns to me, and rightfully so. We need a transparent government, and it starts with our elected officials being out on the main street and approachable. And that's also the reason why I've been going out every week and handing out tens of thousands of flyers to the constituents of all 3 counties.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mohan.
Yeah, just one real quick, I think despite my previous comment of not trying to, insult the intelligence of my Democratic opponent, Mr. Conaway, he keeps repeating and calling me names. I'm a practicing physician. Patients with MAGA hats come to my office. Patients with Biden hats come to my office. I've treated criminals and I've treated priests and everybody in between. So you're not going to get away with that as far as calling me names. But let's go beyond that to what the people's issues are. And what I've said is 26 years of doing nothing except pushing paper like a typical career politician. No reform on safety, no reform on climate change, no reform on women's rights, putting more middlemen in between the patient and the doctor, including your recent bill that you introduced, A 1884, that potentially puts all healthcare, not just doctors, nurses, everybody at losing their license. And what it actually does, it hurts the patients, because then we'll go back to the medieval age where all the nurses, doctors, respiratory therapists, they will be silenced. And silenced, there'll be no innovation. It is the patients who are going to suffer. As far as meeting the town halls, of course, you go to all the 53 towns that I've made rounds and everybody I've met, 53 towns, I've said I'm going to have regular meetings so that I can do my job better as a congressman. That is what I did when I was chief medical officer in my hospital. I used to make rounds at night, talk to the ward nurses, the clerks. They actually told me what was going
Okay,
on.
thank you.
That is
Thank you,
how
Mr.
I did
Mohan.
my job better.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. Mr. Conaway, would you like to respond now?
Well, I will just say yes. It certainly is a demand, a request, if you will, of many of the voters with whom I spoke over these last 11 months. And so they're big shoes to fill, but I will. I've made a commitment to keep up the pace with town hall meetings, and we'll do that. I'm sorry that my Republican opponent doesn't like the fact that I have a record of accomplishment in the legislature. I'm a practicing physician just as he is, and I believe very strongly in the public health, and that physicians have a duty to tell the truth, and that they take an oath to do no harm, and I'm always going to support that. I have defended the doctor-patient relationship, and the many doctors who have supported my campaign are a testament to the work I've done to advance the health care of the people in this state, and the physicians who help to provide it, and the nurses and all the other allied professionals as well, as a matter of fact. So I'll end there, but again, simply yes.
Okay, and I think Mr. Russomanno would like to hear from you.
Ms. Torrey, was Congressman Kim's last town hall meeting, was that virtual or was that in person?
I can't answer that question. I don't know.
Okay, I'm not sure either. I don't want to misspeak. So if it was virtual, I would get rid of all that. You need to be able to look a person in the eye. You need to be able to actually talk to them. This way, constituents can really hold you accountable. That's what the way it was supposed to be. You were supposed to be able to see your elected representative at the post office, at the supermarket, and if they didn't vote the way you wanted them to, or they voted in a certain way, you were supposed to be able to hold them accountable and look them in the eye and tell them how you felt. We've really gotten away from that. I like Mr. Wynn's suggestion about meeting in a diner. I also like bars. I've had some really good conversations with people at a few watering holes as well, but I do think it's important, tying into what you said, I do think situations like that and environments like that go a long way into affording people communication with their representative. It shouldn't only be on my terms. It shouldn't only be somewhere that I feel comfortable. It should be where they feel comfortable as well. And I think it will go a long way for communication and for my constituents holding me accountable as well.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Welser.
Great hero of mine is Ralph Nader. And Ralph has said over the years that, the way to really shake things up in our country politically is to organize citizens congressional watch organizations in every congressional district. Ralph said, if you had just 1,000 citizens that came together on a regular basis and they formulated policy and they were in touch with their representative, it would make a big difference. That's one thing that I would do. I would foster the development in the third CD of a citizens congressional watch organization, and would hope that it would be a model to carry across the country for all congressional districts in our country. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. I had promised you one more question, and I know you'll be very disappointed. I don't think we can squeeze it in. We want to keep to our time frame. So that will be the last question and the end of the question period. We'll turn now to your closing statements. Just to remind you, we're going to do this alphabetically, but Z to A. So each closing statement will be 60 seconds, 1 minute. We're going to begin with Mr. Wynn as the first statement and work back through the alphabet. All right. And remember that once the closing statements are finished, we have just a few minutes on voting in this year's election and some of the rules and regulations, just to remind everybody. So closing statements, first closing statement from Douglas Anthony Wynn. Mr. Wynn?
I thank you guys for having me tonight, but we have to get you back to transparency. This is the only way we're going to change the politics here in New Jersey. Transparency is needed. It will stop the corruption in both parties. And by the way, I'm an independent party. I'm independent. So we need transparency. With me being, if you elect me to Congress, District 3 will look different because we will have transparency. We will have town hall meetings. We will be in the diner. See, I have great IPC skills, talking to inmates and talking to criminals all my life. I know how to talk to people. Let's get going. Let's get them both.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Welser.
Yeah, I think we all want to thank the league for this opportunity. I think it's been enlightening tonight. I will say this, that multi-party electoral systems in other democracies are able to accommodate the full spectrum of the ideological rainbow: liberal parties, conservative parties, environmentalists, socialists, nationalists. In this country, the two establishment parties work very hard to maintain the status quo and suppress any competition. So it's notable that the Greens have managed to endure for decades. Pollsters report now that 70% of voters say they'd like to see more choices on their ballots. And among all third-party initiatives, the Green Party endures because of growing recognition that our distinctive program, centered on ecological sustainability, social justice, peace, and revitalization of local community life, presents a compelling alternative to the policies of the status quo parties. The Greens are here to stay, and we say to the others, work with us to reform the electoral system so that the American voters finally are able to enjoy a full multi-party democracy. All my positions are at Welser for Congress, welserforcongress.com.
Thank you, Mr. Welser. Thank you. All right, next from Mr. Russomanno.
Sure. Just sitting here, I just love the way I've seen this in other debates as well. It seems like Republicans and Democrats really just talk to each other or at each other. And there's 4 other people up here with different thoughts and differing opinions. And if left to them, they wouldn't even include us in the conversation. I think that's wrong. Like Mr. Welser was saying, there's certainly more than 2 ways of looking at any given thing. And I think, let's see, both of those parties, one or the other of the parties, have been in power for over 100 years. They've been around. And every election, they say they're going to fix things. And in my lifetime, things are getting worse all the time. This is the worst I've seen our country and our state by far. So if you want more of the same, vote Democrat or Republican. If you want something different, something better, vote Libertarian.
Okay, thank you very much. Next from Mr. Mohan.
Thank you to the league and for having us. I believe that the power of good grows exponentially. I'm a political outsider, not a career politician. I turned around a hospital, a failed hospital, $500 million yearly revenue within a year. I have a critical care mindset. I'm a cardiologist. I want things to be done now. I want things that the policies are made with teeth, not just like pushing paper and have nothing to show for 26 years. You know, today is President Carter's 100th birthday. If there was Herb Conway's Bill A, 1884, 9 years ago, when he first got diagnosed of malignant melanoma with brain spread or metastases, he would have been dead a long time ago. Because at that time, his doctors did not follow the consensus guidelines at that time. They decided to use their clinical judgment. And otherwise they would have lost their license. You know, based on his own law, he could lose his license because of what he did to Burlington County during the pandemic. Schools shut down the in the country, and all the draconian laws that he brought on in Burlington County. They still remember that. Yeah. He could lose his own license. He basically, because of him, family members could not visit their loved dying patients in the hospital. He's the chair of the health committee. What did he do? Just push paper.
Mr. Mohan, thank you. Thank you. You've run out of time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. And next we'll hear from Mr. Conaway.
Thank you. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to present our ideas. Stacey, the timekeeper, you had a tough job here this evening. I'll try to stay within the lines. Look, you know, there is a clear choice in this election. You can go forward with Harris, Walsh, Kim, and Conway. to a future that's bright. The country's not going to hell in a handbasket. We know that there are policy choices that we can make. I'm the only one on this dais who has a proven record of working pragmatically in a bipartisan way to get things done for the people in this state. I know how to do it. I have an opportunity once again to raise my hand in defense of our Constitution and our liberties, or you can go backwards to Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans, which unfortunately my opponent supports, to the blood of our country and retribution and would-be dictatorship. So I'll end there. Forward, not backwards. Thanks for listening.
Thanks very much. And Mr. Barbera, please.
Patriots, it's up to you to elect me into government. I will support Douglas, Steve, and Chris in my campaign if they're willing to join me. You could see here today that both parties are just worried about arguing with each other. And make sure you join the revolution. Give me a leg to stand on so I can support other patriots around the nation to take back our government from the demonic deep state.
Okay, thank you very much. Candidates, thank you all for meeting with your voters tonight through this forum, and indeed for running to serve your country. If we were here in person, I know Mr. Russomanno would like that, we would give you all a round of applause right now. So give your constituents out there a little wave. Audience, thank you for demonstrating your interest in being an informed voter. This is how we make democracy work. A few comments on voting in this year's election. First of all, if you have friends and neighbors who could not attend tonight's forum, the recording will be posted on individual league websites. You see them in front of you, as well as on vote411.org. Before you leave me, a few quick reminders about the general election. 2 minutes, I promise. Election day is Tuesday, November 5th, with in-person voting from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. at your regular polling place. You have other ways to vote. However, you can vote by mail. If you are on the vote by mail list, your ballot has already been mailed to you. You probably have it in your hand. You can return it by U.S. mail, postmarked by Election Day, November 5th, or return it to any drop box in your county. That's very important, in your county, up to the close of polls on Election Day. You also can, there are many Dropbox locations. Check your county clerk's website for the full list. You can get to that site by linking at vote.nj.gov, the state's election website, which is excellent. If you would like to vote by mail in this election, but are not on the permanent list, you can still apply. You must apply in person by 3 p.m. on November 4th. That's the day before Election Day at your county election office, or you can file a mail application 7 days before the election. The application form is available again on your county election site or at vote.nj.gov. Another way to vote, take advantage of early in-person voting on the voting machines at any early voting site, again, in your county. Early voting is available from Saturday, October 26th through Sunday, November 3rd. Choose a time that works for you, from 10 to 6 on Sunday, 10 to 8 every other day. For early voting locations, again, your county election site, no appointment is necessary. Just show up when it works for you. Questions? Try your county clerk's website, your local League of Women Voters, or vote.nj.gov. All sites that are very easy to use. One last word. You're here tonight, so I know you are all voters, but I'll say it anyway. Don't forget to vote. And please encourage friends, family, and neighbors to vote too. Don't let anyone you know sit this election out. With that, thank you again, candidates. Thank you again, audience, and thanks to everyone on and off screen for making this a most informative evening. Good night, everybody. Have a good night. Thank you.